Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this lesson on the Bill of Rights. I am Miss Jennifer Blank. See, there I am. Hello, and I'm very excited, and so is that little squirrel. I took this picture in Washington, D.C. The squirrel is very, very excited, and so am I, to share with you this lesson about the Bill of Rights. So here we go. So before we talk about the Bill of Rights, I want to talk for a second about why we have the Bill of Rights. See, under the Articles of Confederation, which is this document right here, and the Articles of Confederation were the first form of government of the United States, we didn't have a centralized government really to speak of. And we came together in the Constitutional Convention to make a new government, make a government that would function better and handle the national issues that the Articles were not able to handle. And there were these two camps. There were the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. Okay, and we're going to talk about the Anti-Federalists first because they thought the Articles were good, they just needed to be tweaked. The Federalists believed that we needed to scrap the Articles and start over and create a constitution. Now, the Anti-Federalists were originally against ratification because they really feared centralized government. They said that if you have a strong central government, the people will not be free. There won't be freedom. The government will try to take liberty at every point that they can. So the Anti-Federalists said, listen, we are not going to ratify this thing unless you give us a Bill of Rights. And the Federalists were like, well, maybe, all right. So we'll have a Bill of Rights. So the Federalists jumped on board and they were okay. But the reason why we have this amazing, amazing thing, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, was because of the Anti-Federalists. Now, like I just talked about, the Federalists, these are these guys right here, the Federalists, they wrote the Federalist Papers, and they hated the Articles of Confederation. They looked like that angry cat, and they were just not, they didn't think the Articles were good times. So that's how they came up with the Constitution of the United States of America. They said we need a national government that will handle national problems, because the Articles were just not getting it done. And this little political cartoon really summarizes what the whole deal was about. So you have on one end over here, you have the Anti-Federalists, and over here you have the Federalists. And the Anti-Federalist says, a Bill of Rights protects people no matter what class or situation. And the Federalists are like, you don't need it because you already have all those rights, but okay, if it makes you happy and you'll vote with us, we'll add it, right? So vote yes for the Constitution, and so we added the Bill of Rights. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The Bill of Rights protect so many basic principles of freedom that the founders really believed in. And it's really important that we understand just what all of those specific rights are. It's how we are protected. It's how our freedom and our liberty is protected from a tyrannical government. All right, this is very important. So what exactly were the Bill of Rights? The basic idea you need to know is they were the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Okay, first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Very important. Let's start with the First Amendment. This is, it's the first one, but it's arguably the most important. And it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. There are 5 rights in this amendment. Okay, count them 5. Okay, we have religion, we have speech, press, right to assemble, and petition. Okay, it's very important that you understand that there are 5 rights packed into this relatively tiny amendment. Now, one of the most important rights in here is called the Establishment Clause. Okay, it's called the Establishment Clause because the country is not allowed to establish an official religion, and it can't prevent you from exercising your freedom. But one of the things that some people forget is we don't just have freedom of, we have freedom from, okay? We have freedom from and of. So people can't force their religion on you, and you are free to practice your faith however you wish, as long as it does not interfere with other people's rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These next 2 are directed right at the British government. So the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, Britain tried to take away our guns because they wanted to keep us from fighting them. So to our founders, it was imperative, it was essential that the people's right to defend itself against its government be built in to the founding document. So this is why we have the right to keep and bear arms. Now, this well-regulated militia that they talk about, this is actually the National Guard. okay, every single governor has at his or her disposal the National Guard troops to maintain security and order in the state. And if there's an issue, they can call up the National Guard and activate them to help in the event of, say, a hurricane or some sort of natural disaster. Now, the other advantage of a National Guard is that governors can protect themselves from the army of the national government. If the national government were to become tyrannical, each governor could activate the National Guard and defend the freedom of the United States. Now, the next amendment, Amendment 3, was also directed at the British, and it says, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. And this takes issue with the British forcing Americans to house British soldiers. And the British soldiers really abused this ability. They stole from the colonists, they hurt the colonists, they wrecked the colonists' property, and nothing bad happened to them. So our founders wanted to build in Amendment 3 so that armies could not take possession of our private property. These next three amendments, the 4th, 5th, and 6th, are really, really important because they're all about due process. Okay? Due process is a protection built in for us against the government charging us with things that they shouldn't be charging us with and searching our stuff when they don't have permission and really important stuff. So I'm going to go through each of these amendments. So let's start with the 4th Amendment, okay? The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. All right, what this means is the government can't just walk in all up in your stuff and be like, hey, I want to see if you're doing anything bad, and just then look for something you're doing bad and then arrest you. No, they have to have a lawful reason. They have to go to a court of law and say, this is the evidence I have right now that I think this person is doing something bad, and now you need, what do you think about approving me to go in and search for these particular things in this specific place? So, for example, a cop might only have a warrant for the kitchen in a house of a specific person because of evidence they collected. But they can't just walk in and search your kitchen or any of your stuff, not just your house or your car, but your person as well. They can't just go and start digging around in your pockets unless you give them reason to do so. And this was to protect our liberty. The 5th Amendment, and that's down over here, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, capital meaning something that you could be put to death for, you could be the death penalty, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. What that means is if you're a member of the military and you mess up, then some of your due process rights are a little bit different, okay? And the military courts run a bit differently. But if you're a civilian, just your regular average dude, then you cannot be held to answer for a capital crime unless a jury has said that you need to go to trial. And then now we're right here. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. So if you're charged with a capital crime, something that you could get the death penalty for, you can't be tried twice for the same offense. So if you're found innocent, that's it. You're innocent forever. They can't find new evidence and then retry you later. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself. Now that one's really important. When people are like, I plead the fifth, that means that the court can't call you up to the stand and make you testify. You do not have to take the stand in your own defense. You don't have to take the stand at all. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This is very important. No one can put you in jail. No one can hold you account for a crime. The government can't do any of those things until you've been through a trial, until you have had due process of law. This is very, very important. They can't just throw you in jail like they can in some other countries. This is very key. Now we're at the 6th Amendment, and that guy is right over here. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. This right here is due process. Amendment 6 is all about the due process. So, Fifth Amendment says you get due process. The Sixth Amendment says what that due process is. You get a trial that is quick and public, so that other people can watch to make sure that the government's doing what it's supposed to. You are going to get an impartial jury, and you are going to be made aware of the accusations against you. They have to formally tell you this is what you're being charged with. You have to be allowed to question the witnesses that are speaking out against you, and you get a lawyer. Okay, this is all part of due process, very important. Amendments 7 and 8 continue with a little bit of due process, but they're a little bit more specific. So Amendment 7 is talking about suits at common law, and that means a lawsuit between a civilian and another civilian. It's not a criminal case. It's not the state bringing criminal charges. It's in civil court. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Basically what that means, if somebody stiffs you at $20 or more, rather more than $20, then you have a right to a jury trial to have the jury evaluate whether or not that person still owes you that money, or if they stole it from you, and you have a right to a jury trial to get that back. Amendment 8 says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 8 was also directed at the British, because the British would arrest the colonists for ridiculous things. They would set a really large amount of bail so that people wouldn't be able to get out of jail while they were awaiting trial. They would charge excessive fines to make it virtually impossible for the people to pay because they needed money. And they did inflict cruel and unusual punishment. So this is why we have that, to protect us from the government. Okay, so the 9th and 10th Amendments are very, very important. Many would argue that these are the most important amendments next to the First Amendment and due process. All right, Amendment 9 says, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Enumeration means specific. The fact that there were specific rights listed in the Constitution doesn't mean that there aren't others that the people get. Okay, that just because we spelled out some doesn't mean that that's all that we get. We get everything, even those rights that aren't specified in the Constitution. And the 10th Amendment says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. What both of these amendments mean is that the federal government was given, the national government was given very specific duties and powers. That's it. That's all they get. They don't get anything more than that. Everything else that is not specifically given to the national government is left to us, to the states, and to the people. That's us, we the people. So the federal government is only allowed to do what the Constitution says it's allowed to do. It is not allowed to go beyond the Constitution. And so that's our lesson on the Bill of Rights. I hope you learned what you needed to learn, and I will see you next time.